Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killjoys. A great episode. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have Team Awesome Force being tortured by the lady, and she's kind of got this device on them, at least when it comes to Dutch, to kind of force her body to kind of move the way she wants her to. And I love Dutch, no matter what the circumstances, is still talking mad shit. You know, it's like, oh, this is one of my children you burned. And it's like, oh, you know, anyone wants some white meat or whatever. It's like, even under these circumstances, that's what they do best. And it's kind of interesting. I love Johnny being like, yeah, I could take whatever you got. And it turned out to be Davin being there to save him. He's like, oh, thank goodness. Because obviously I was lying. I couldn't take any more. This is like 5-star torture. But also, you know, we have Davin being released by Klein. It's a whole thing. They managed to escape. But then there's a part of you that's like, they got away a little too damn easy. Even they're kind of being like, yeah, there's got to be something up here. But they get scanned and none of them have any, like, and nothing's wrong with them. So it's like, okay. But then, you know, and you had this sweet moment between Dutch and Davin I thought was kind of cute. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, you know, last time, you know, we were kind of against each other. It's like, yeah, because it was like, because they didn't know who each other was. Well, at least he didn't know. And I love him being like, well, yeah, that's just you still playing hard to get or whatever towards Dutch. And it's like, oh, they're about to make out. But then Johnny says something that kind of gets them like, oh, I even love it the entire time. Davin's like, okay, so Johnny, you got this covered. Come me and Dutch, we can. And he just kept wanting to go off. To be fair, they haven't been together for the past like 40 like some days that they were under the spell that the lady kind of set forth and everything. Well, I say spell, but you know, the mass hypnosis, like they were all under at that time. So it's like, oh, obviously you want to catch up and everything, but still I just thought that was kind of neat. But then like it's interesting, like, because I love this episode. I love stuff like this where it's like, wait, who's telling truth? Who's lying? Like I've talked about, because this recently came up in the episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love that type of thing of like, who do you trust type of situation. At first it's like, oh, everything's pointing to Davin because he's got the mark. And then, you know, and as I guess, I figured as much, because it is revealed that the lady does bounce from body to body because human bodies can't handle her. In fact, we actually find out that's actually why she wants Jax, because her species can't exist in this world. Like, human bodies aren't sustainable enough for them, nor is its atmosphere. So they need a body that can sustain both, and that's Jack, because Jack is part human, part Holland. So that was kind of interesting to understand. Like, I'm sure him having powers probably helps that too. But they also added something too. I was wondering too, like with all the green pools dried up, it's like, what does that mean for like the Holland? And it turns out it's like, wait, they're not regenerating. So the spores work. So it wasn't just wiping out the green. It literally wiped out all of the green across the universe. So no one is Holland anymore, which is interesting. It makes you wonder, how does the lady, well, I guess maybe they're still Hollandized, they just don't have the benefit of regenerating like crazy. The fact is, they're serving her, but not unless they're just like, maybe they're people who remember what it's like to be Holland and they want to serve her. Maybe they were like Holland for so long, or maybe they're brainwashed into serving her. I don't know. Because once you become de-Hollandized, you kind of go back to being yourself. So once again, that's why I'm kind of getting the feeling like the Holland is still there inside of them. They just don't have the added bonus of being able to regenerate, because that green is dead inside of them, but they're still, you know, you get what I'm trying to say? So maybe that's the justification for it. Either way, I just thought that was kind of like a fascinating detail to kind of like drop in right there. But obviously, like I said, everything's kind of pointing to Davin potentially being the bad guy in all of this. And it's like, okay, so obviously Johnny was reluctant to be like, no, it's my bro, but why would that be the case? But it's like, okay, certain things start not working right, like Lucy's, there's issues with Lucy's, the sample of the creature they had taken, it gets like vaporized, so it's like, okay, it's gotta be Davin. So Dutch locks him up, and then it's like, okay, and she's like, okay, because you've obviously been lying. Like, how did you get free if that's the case? And it's like, okay, because I was like, yeah, we know that Klein let him out, so why isn't he saying anything? It's like, well, because Klein had told him, don't say anything to Dutch, because if Dutch finds out, she's basically going to come back and try and rescue me. And she's like, wait, what? So she probably doesn't, because it's the whole thing of like, she doesn't know that Klein came out of the green. Obviously, like, once again, there's still the whole thing of Anila. they have to have both come out. If Klein's here, the last time we saw Anila was in there too, so she had to have escaped the green. I still believe, because I'm sure, like, you know, the ladies had her eye on Klein the entire time, so there's no way he would have had time to go to Westerly and sneak that. So Anila had to have snuck onto Westerly some shape or form. I'm curious, like, because she's no longer Hollanized or whatever, but it makes you wonder, like, maybe her being part Holland, either she was off planet when the hypnosis was kind of put under. I wonder, was it by a person-to-person basis, the way conversations come up later on, or was it a situation of it was all kind of a mass, like, push people on there? Because it seems like in some cases, because she talks about it with Dutch, that Dutch had to be kind of put under multiple times for it to kind of stick. Not unless that was complete BS. Like I said, we'll get to that soon enough. But it's just something to kind of get you thinking about all of that, you know? Regardless, I'm sure that's something they're, like, heavily, like, setting up for, like, the reveal of, like, Anila's out and about. But like I said, that's just where my mindset's been at for a while. But because, remember, like, they weren't there to see. But so the point I'm trying to make is, like, so obviously for Dutch, it's like, wait, Klein, you're wrong. Like, what? So she's not going to believe Davin. But then Johnny shows up and be like, yeah, something's not right here. You check your body. You have mark. I had the mark. So it's like, maybe it could be any one of us, or it could be none of us. And it's like, who do we trust in this whole situation? Because, you know, Dutch is basing this off the fact is that, like, you know, Johnny was like, well, because the lady promised, like, oh, I'm gonna break Johnny. I might not be able to break you, Dutch, but I'm gonna break Johnny, and breaking him will be enough to break you to get what I need. So he'll be so easy to break. And so she's asking, like, okay, like, what did the lady talk to you about? And Johnny doesn't say everything. And it's like, oh, but she's like, whether you're the lady or not, I know that you're lying. Because John, and I love that this is a plot point. Johnny's actually having a hard time. Like, he made jokes about it last episode, but he's having a hard time dealing with the whole thing of, like, yeah, him and Dutch lived a life. They were together. They were a couple. He tries to, like, because even Dutch is like, are you okay? He's thinking about, because it's like, oh yeah, all that she put them through, making them have these false identities and stuff. It's like, but you're okay, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. But then, like, the lady was like, oh yeah, like, Dutch had to be put under multiple times, but you, oh, it was so easy to kind of, like, scramble your mind into this falsehood, because obviously maybe deep down it's what you've always wanted. And I think that makes Johnny feel weird, because it's like he's always looked at Dutch like that, but it's always like, as a, you know, like, they've always had, like, kind of the relationship they've always had was kind of brother and sister. And so for him it's like, so is that, you know, it's making him question a lot of things, because it's like there is a part of him, I think, even though those are fake memories, it's still residing in his head of the time him and Dutch spent together. And it's like, do I feel that way about Dutch? Because I'm thinking now that they've kind of, that's not real anymore. It kind of breaks his heart to know it's not real anymore, because he was in love with her, and now it's like, but was that just the fake memories, or was that me, or is there some part of me that still, because he feels awkward about it, and he can't bring himself to admit, and that's the sad thing, like, because both of them couldn't admit certain things, and in Johnny's case, he couldn't admit, like, oh man, like, this whole situation, because he was too confused by it. And obviously Davin was told by Klein not to say anything, so that just complicates and makes things worse. But the moment, like, it was like, oh, could Johnny be it? I was like, I had a feeling it wasn't Johnny, just because of those memories they made. Like, we understood immediately where Johnny was coming from, and it adds this interesting element to his character of, like, how does he handle that whole stage, because him and Dutch were one way for so long, and now this complicates things, especially because he knows Davin and Dutch are a thing, and that just murkies the water even more. It's like, you know, that's your brother, and that's someone who's like your sister, and it's like you feel weird and wrong, you know. So that's definitely something I'm very interested to dive into, because that's something he's still kind of keeping to himself. But like I said, we'll dive into that in a little bit. Well, basically, let's skip to it, because Davin at the end of it all was kind of like, I know when you're lying. Like, he probably can tell, because at one point he makes a joke about it. It's like, oh, you know your wife so well. He's like, she's not my wife. And Davin was like, I was just joking. But you can tell, like, it wasn't funny to Johnny, because I think he could pick up on it, like, this, you're getting a little weird anytime this subject comes up about Dutch being your wife. It has had an effect on you, and, like, he's starting to see that, even though Johnny's not outright willing to talk about it. Like I said, I'm interested to see where that path goes. But then they get Lucy to scan her brains and everything. It's like, okay, so who's it? But sadly, some words get passed around. Like, for example, like, Davin kind of throws it in Dutch's face of like, oh yeah, you're the one that kind of broke to the lady the first time y'all crossed paths. But then she's like, oh, but who really broke first, Davin? What about you when you broke and killed your entire unit, and then when you tried to kill me? And then Johnny was like, yo, we need to stop this. But when it's found out that none of us are infected, we don't want to say things that it's too late to kind of take back later on, you know? But then it points out that it's Dutch. But then Dutch has an idea of like, okay, here I am, I'm naked. All of you get naked. And they're like, wait, what? And it's like, okay, because it had crossed my mind. I was like, so are we saying that Lucy's infected? But I was like, how could Lucy be infected? I guess the thing is, like, Lucy could have been infected at any point in time while they were under the spell. Or, because I was about to say, because I was like, because I doubt they could have gotten to Lucy now. Well, because I was like, it had to be some point afterwards. Maybe, because the point is, like, Lucy was trying to wake Johnny up, so it had to be some point after they were captured that Lucy was, like, messed with, or maybe something was there and the seeds hadn't really fully sprouted until much later on. Whatever the case may be, she gets everyone naked, and because of that, like, there's a privacy protocol that kicks in when two people are naked, so that Lucy kind of gives them their privacy. And I love Davin and Johnny having this conversation about, like, oh, bigger pillows and stuff like that, and Johnny's like, that's not right. And he's like, yeah, my pillow is wider than yours. It kind of has more girth, and he's smug and smiling, and it's like, yes, one of you is bigger than the other, and it's just, of course, this will be a thing between these bros. But it turns out that it is Lucy that is infected, and this was going to give them privacy. I even love Davin being like, well, we only need two people naked, so why am I naked? She's like, I didn't want you to feel all alone. Because I even love it because Johnny was like, oh, I got to get naked. But then it's like, both of you get naked, and both Davin and Johnny were looking like, wait, what? What? Because even Davin was kind of, at first, he was like, oh, I'm actually, well, to be fair, I think this is a little weird, but I mean, I can get behind, like, you being naked and you want me to get, I'm fine with that. So I just love that. But Johnny looks into it, and totally turns out to be, Lucy is infected. And obviously, Davin and Dutch end up making up, but it's still the complicated thing of like, so... it's a thing of like, we still might be infected, but at the same time, it's like, when it's all said and done, I'm basically apologizing on both fronts. So that's good. And then obviously Johnny dealing with the fact is that he's trying to like uncorrupt Lucy. And in this moment, Lucy kind of pulls through. I had to look it up. The actress who voices Lucy, her name is Tamsin McDonough. And I was so curious about, like, the robot we see is her. But I was also wondering, I was like, wait, because she made a reference to, like, oh, like, this is something I've done before. I was like, right, isn't that the robot body she was in back in season 2? I looked it up. It totally is. I didn't realize that at the time that I was wondering. I was like, okay, so the one that's here, I'm like, oh, that must be actually Tamsin herself pretending to be the robot. I was like, was that her back then, too? Looked at it. Yes, that was her back then. So that's how they got away with her being able to be herself twice. It's kind of interesting because they kind of done a similar thing to Gideon on Legends of Tomorrow. It's like, Gideon's been herself, like the actress who voices Gideon on Legends of Tomorrow, she's actually been able to show up in the show as herself like 2 or 3 times, and this is the second time Lucy's been able to show up as herself, and it's actually kind of cool that she got, because that's the actress who voices that's Samson, the actress who voices Lucy. That's her in real life. I was like, oh, that's so cool and dope. But then they have this heart-to-heart where she's like, Johnny, you need to wipe my system. And he's like, no, I can find a way. She's like, you're not going to. You need to do this. This is kind of for, this is the only way before the virus kind of corrupts me more. And she's like, thank you for letting me ride shotgun. And you have Johnny being like, always and forever. And she's like, goodbye, my thief. And it was like, goodbye, ship. And I won't lie to you, I start tearing up a little bit. It was that same feeling as like when the whole Potter thing happened. It was a very similar thing. It's like, dude, like him and, obviously him, Dutch, and Lucy go way back. But obviously, like, there was always, like, obviously they didn't always start off liking each other. But Johnny and Lucy had a bond. It's like, yeah, Davin. And that's interesting, too, because that was a plot point brought up last season, too. Like, even that whole thing of, like, oh, always ride shotgun with me. Like, that was a plot point in regard of, like, Johnny kind of felt like a third wheel because Davin and Dutch. And it's like, but it's like, no, I got Lucy. And it's like having to say goodbye to essentially your partner in crime like that. It's just like, oh, no, Lucy. It's so heartbreaking, dude. I'm like, damn, dude. But Lucy gave them some information that those creatures are clones. So the lady was able to leave with her real body, but she made clones of herself. But the thing is, those clones are imperfect. So you destroy the original body, the lady's original body, then you kind of stop all of this because it can't be perpetuated with the others. So they've got that in their minds of like, once we do that, she's done. But the lady catches up to them again because the whole point was to lead them towards Jax. But you have Dutch being like, no, we can't do this. We can't, try to fight her. We don't have the manpower to do it. The fact is, we need to kill the lady's body, the real body, to make this happen. So that does beg the question, what's happening to these? It must be like somewhere like the real lady's body is hidden. And like, it's not like she's fully injecting herself into these people. It must be like that she's kind of like jabbing them in the neck and kind of sending her like a portion of her consciousness / DNA into their body to be. It must be more of a consciousness thing. Maybe it is a full blown. I'd assume it's some part of her hits why it's killing their bodies, like the human bodies. But with this all said and done, the lady's like, I'm not going to be able to break them at all. It's like because even Klein had to tell her, it's like, well, what if they're actually not lying to you, which they're not, because remember near the end of season 4, they removed the pieces of their brains that had Jack's location, so they actually don't know where he is. So it's not like they were lying, and just in case a situation like this happens. So it's good to prepare ahead of time like that. I mean, that was obviously this all stems from what Klein did to Anila way back in the day when it came to Dutch. So nevertheless, Klein is willing to work with her to help her, it's like, rather than using them to find Jack, why not, rather than, getting them to go find Jack for you, why not use them to bring Jack to you? Because he'll be lured in to kind of try and come and rescue his family. Obviously, Delcea's not going to be all for that plan or whatever, so. Obviously, they still don't know about Zeph either, because Zeph got covered in the rain, so she's forgotten. She left herself a remark, but she doesn't remember, so it's going to be a while before she circles back around and remembers, but we'll see. So I'm curious to see what moves Klein is going to make, because the way he's going about it, she's like, oh, you almost got through. He's like, oh, yep. Looks like it all kind of failed. His cadence is like, oh, yeah, like, Klein he's got plans upon contingencies. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what he has in mind with all of this. Because once again, he made it, I assumed he was talking about Dutch. And I think that was the point last season. Like, last episode of like, who do you want to save? And it's like, of course, you're going to choose your daughter over your grandson. But once again, there's extenuating circumstances, like I said, potentially Anila. There's other things at play here, which would be kind of neat, because like I think that'd be something we could look forward to this season too, is Anila meeting her son, Jack's meeting his other mother. So I think that'd be pretty dope to kind of see them finally get the face to face with this whole like weird, twisted, crazy family, but nevertheless, we do have them being our team Awesome Force being shipped off to a Supermax prison, which I'm assuming some of those people that they sent away over the course of the series as Killjoys, those we've seen and those we haven't seen, are probably locked up in there. So they're probably locked up with people they locked up. So that might be a complicated thing. Also, especially if word gets out that they're Killjoys too, I'm sure that's going to piss a lot of people off. So I am very, very interested to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.